Here, we explain how to plan schedules by taking the constraints of the number of setup workers into account and how to adjust future manpower. In sub-assembly processes, when production items are changed, workers set the automatic machines. In the assembly process, several workers work on an assembly line, so it is important to adjust worker assignments. First, we will explain how to plan sub-assembly processes by taking the constraints of the number of setup workers into account. When the item is changed on a sub-assembly process, setup time is required. We will use the item setup table to specify the setup time. Since all the automatic machines of sub-assembly processes have the same setup conditions, we set the resource group. Item L, ! and item R, ! indicate when the operation item is switched. Item L, ! and item R, *, indicate a first operation that does not have any previous operations. The setup time is 120 minutes for both. In the integrated master, since we need a worker during setup, we add worker setup as a sub-resource. When we do this, we set setup to 0 so that setup is assigned to the worker. Setup is also required in the sub-assembly of the main resources, so we set setup to 0. The 0 specified here indicates that the setup time will be calculated by referring to the setup times of the item setup table when operations are assigned. There are only 2 worker setup workers for the day shift and for the night shift. Let's reschedule. As a result, even though there are 3 automatic machines in the sub-assembly processes, item setup can be performed on up to 2 machines at the same time. As shown here, it is easy to plan schedules with worker shift and number constraints. Next, we will explain how to adjust worker assignments in the assembly process. This can be used to determine how many workers will be necessary in the future and make adjustments based on the scheduling results. In the assembly process, several workers work on an assembly line. Thus, the required number of workers and operation time are fixed depending on the item. We set worker ASSI as a sub-resource in the integrated master. Here, we set the production column to 0 for the worker required for the assembly operation. This indicates that the sub-resource will be assigned for the same time as the production capacity of the main resource. Let's make the resource quantity 12. This will assign an operation to 12 workers. Set the required resource quantity for wire harness M to 8 and that for wire harness S to 4. To plan a future manpower schedule, first we estimate how many workers will be necessary. On the calendar, set the day shift workers to 20 and night shift workers to 12. Let's reschedule. We can see the maximum number of workers that will be necessary. We see that we need a maximum of 12 workers. In addition, we can also check the average number of workers on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. In an actual manpower planning, we determine the number of required workers from these peak and average values. The daily average is 52%, so we can assume that the number of day shift workers can be reduced. As seen here, Asprova enables us to plan schedules with worker shift and number constraints and plan future manpower schedules.